Why did God commit genocide against the Canaanites? At most, a perplexing and heated topic indeed. So, let us delve into the complexity of this narrative, shall we? First, we must acknowledge that the Canaanites inhabiting the promised land at that time were entrenched in depraved and abhorrent practices, violating the very value of human dignity. Their culture was steeped in incest, child sacrifice, homosexuality, and bestiality, an abomination to the divine order, including attacking an attempt to eradicate the entire Jewish or Israeli nation during the time of Exodus. Now, some might argue that the Israelis' actions sanctified by God were genocidal and unjustifiable, as I already explained. But, my friends, we must consider the contents. The Canaanites in that land had been given over 400 years to repent, with countless warnings from God but no heeding to it. So their destruction was not merely a unmeasured consequence but a necessary one to prevent the corruption of the Israelites and the growth of evil. Okay, so before we move on, we must recognize that this was only the people that were staying in the promised land, majority of which was that time the Canaanite people. If we continue to read in the Old Testament and fast forward to the New Testament, you see that the Canaanites are still pretty much alive. In fact, Jesus talks to a Canaanite woman in Matthew 15:21 to 28 and having compassion upon her and healing the woman's daughter, indicating that in fact God did have a divine plan to save everyone, and it wasn't a call of genocide but a call for an extermination of all evil people in the promised land, right? However, we must consider that at the time the doors of Israel or the borders of Israel was open to many who chose to repent, like Rahab and her entire family, and others like Jethro the Midianite, etc. Okay, think of it as thus. The Canaanite society that lived in the land was like a cancer, a plague that threatened to consume all in its path. And God, in His divine wisdom, chose to exercise the cancer to protect His people and the future of humanity, which was Christ, even though the Israelites never succeeded in their mission to conquer the promised land. Because if you continue to read the word, we see that Israelites, as a result, what God tells them is going to happen if they still kill all the Canaanites in the land among them happened, leading Israel into similar abominable practices and almost the extinction of the Jewish people, as we see in many books such as Judges, First Samuel, Kings, so on and so forth. Now, some theologians add on to this concept by saying this was just common war hyperbole of that time. And again, why I would choose to accept this theory is because we still see the Canaanites throughout the Bible. Now, I pose a question for those who still feel this is unjust. What would you do to a nation that was bent on sacrificing their babies and partaking in all these abominable acts and threatening the very extinction of certain ethnic groups? And if you're an atheist, then by what standard would you base your decision on? Because remember, good and bad only comes from the standard of God. So what you feel will be totally relative in terms of morality, because if there's no standard, then there's no wrong. And for those who this is simply a hard pill to swallow, you must recognize that we complain every day about the evil that takes place in our world, and we wish, or not wish, but complain, why doesn't God take action against evil? However, when we do so, as we see in the Bible, we start to complain, why did he do it that way? You must remember, God is all divine, he's all knowing. He is the one that can see the intent in the heart of every human being to take care of a situation that's totally up to him, because you and I won't really be able to make a rational decision when it comes to this type of issue, because we look at it from a bias or a immoral standpoint, as we see our world takes today against many aspects of war. So I hope that this video answers your question. If you have any other questions, drop it down in the comments below. I can do my best to answer it. Have a good day.